So, can you share some challenges which you have solved?
I think the largest challenge that I had was determining whether I wanted to stay as a data cruncher, as an engineer, or whether I wanted to move up in management.
Can you share some of the case studies which you have done and which has created a business impact?
The latest one we did was looking at about 36 homes for energy efficiency. And we created a model that looks at personalized usage of each home.
In this edition of the Executive Outlook, we are joined by Dr. Fralick with more than 4 decades of experience around biomedical engineering, AI-driven initiatives, and data science. She has led transformative initiatives across industries while championing the green economy and mentoring the next generation of leaders. Welcome to the Executive Outlook.
Thank you for having me.
I am very excited to hear from you about your experiences and how you started in this field of data and tech. And it's been 4 decades, and what changes you have actually seen throughout your journey.
Oh my goodness. There are good changes and bad changes. The good changes are that most leaders now identify with data and they run with data, and that's from the bottom to the top of the corporation. What I don't see women gaining more recognition at the corporate level, at the C-suite level. So it's disappointing in that regard, but I'm very glad to see that data and AI are zooming ahead, and I'm hoping that the good and the bad will merge to have a much better future.
How the interest been created in the data and AI field, and when it was for you?
When it was the love that I have for data, well, it kind of chose me. I was working as a bench microbiologist and I wasn't being paid very much. And I had just graduated with my undergraduate. And I went to Texas Instruments and begged to join them. Fortunately, unfortunately, the first project they gave me was on statistical process control, which I knew nothing about. But being young, being excited about risk taking at that time in my life, I jumped right in and I was hooked. And I have loved data ever since. Every position that I've had throughout my 45 years this year has been about data. And even my dissertation, biomedical engineering, is centered around AI and data before AI was ever even popularized.
Okay, that sounds really interesting. You have worked across many industries, right? So, can you share some challenges which you have solved or which you have faced?
Well, I honestly believe that there have been many challenges that have come up with programs and projects. I think the largest challenge that I had was determining whether I wanted to stay as a data cruncher, as an engineer, or whether I wanted to move up in management. By far, that was the biggest challenge that I had. Reared its ugly head many times throughout 4 or 5 companies that I worked for and the number of years that I put in. Fortunately, I worked for and retired from Intel Corporation, and they had 2 paths, one to go technically and one to go management. At a point at Intel, you have to make a decision. And so by the time I left, I was at a level very, very equitable to a management position. So I stayed in the technical path. I think everyone has to consider that challenge and understand what they really want. And it's not something that comes to you overnight. You have to really massage it in your brain and understand what you want.
What is your choice now? Is it management or technical?
I'm very good in management, but there is one thing I always tell new managers is don't manage, but lead. And leading takes the pressure off of you to do technical work and to trust the people around you. And I'm a big proponent of the leadership challenge, which speaks to 5 pillars of leadership. And the last team I led at McAfee, oddly enough, were all women. It wasn't planned that way, but they were all women that were extremely smart. We all got along. But I trusted them and I let them do their own work. So it's much easier, I think, to be an engineer crunching numbers all day than it is to be a leader, because the repercussions are risky. But I think you can find a position where your technical smarts are appreciated by a company. I had one particular mentor many, many years ago at Texas Instruments, where I started, that said, learn everything you can at the bottom and you will have no problem moving up. And he was right. It took a while, but I was happy to do it that way.
Exactly. In my opinion, also, if you know the ground, so you can actually solve the problems which team is facing. You can guide them. There are a lot of things you can do because you will have the confidence. So if you know it, then only you can do it. If you don't know it, you cannot do it. This is very, very important. And I really liked your point. Instead of management, it should be a leader. And there's a slight change, but there's a big impact.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to trust your people to do what they do and to let them fail, but to also celebrate their wins and encourage their heart. So it took a while for me to realize that it's actually easier to lead than it is to manage, because I didn't feel the pressure to watch their every step, to double check their work, because I trusted them. And I knew from my experience that they were doing things right. And sure, they failed a couple of times here and there, but it's okay. It didn't hurt much. And we learned together and we moved forward together. I've really enjoyed leadership.
I want to share one instance also that is very close to me. I'm running a company, Complere Infosystem, and one person, in fact, 2 persons from different departments, right? One is into the development area and one is into the HR area. They came to me and they said, Isha, let's start a new initiative. Let's start the training segment in our company. Okay, so training people, and the vision is that we can definitely train it and we will gonna support you. Please take a lead and do it. They came to me, I said, okay, let's explore it. From there, from a 2-person, I have created a team, then added 2 more persons in that. So 4-person, and they are starting a different segment of the company and they are running it. I mean, so impressive. When it was the first batch of training, so I was on my vacation. I remember, hey, today is the first day and our classes needs to be start for the fresher, and I called her and I said, how is the first batch? She said, don't worry, we will gonna manage it, you enjoy it. When I came after 2 days, I saw all the recording, all the conversation, how it went, and they have managed it so well. Oh my god, that is what I am proud of, that I have trusted them. I have given the pathway. It is their initiative. They are coming with ideas. They're executing it. I am so blessed with the team. So just wanted to share it with you.
I did one of the key pillars of leadership, which is enabling others to act. You listen, you inspire a shared vision, and which is another pillar, and you let them go and trust them.
So now I'm making her a leader. She can give the freedom to her team members so that they can come up with the ideas, they can take it, they can own it. So this is a hierarchy. As a leader, you have to also build other leaders.
I think every leader should be looking at, who can I develop to take my job? And don't feel like going to immediately stomp over you, take your position. What you're doing is putting plant food on a flower that's going to grow. And it's so exciting to see them bloom and to watch them mature through their career. And it's very rewarding.
That is the power of leading, creating bonds, creating relationships. That is very, very important. I also want to add on here, it is not a 1-day task. It is a slow process, but definitely it is executable. You can make the leaders, you can give that understanding, you can identify the people, develop that people, but it will gonna take time.
And I think it's really important to understand the people's strengths. I had a manager in my past that was bound and determined to make me a software engineer like him. I am not a software engineer. That is not my forte. And I think that's a wrong approach. I think it's important to understand a person's strength. I think you can actually take the test on the internet for a fee, but it woke me up on strengths that I had. And from that point, I was promoted because I was doing the things that I like to do. And I took the job that I wanted to take because I asked my manager, focus on my strengths, not my weaknesses, focus on my strengths and I will shine. And I did. I was recently inducted into Arizona State University's Engineering Hall of Fame. And of course, I had to show that I was capable through the interviews, but I got the interviews because I was networking.
According to you, what is a red flag that businesses should watch out in advance?
Well, because I lean towards AI and data, I would say the number one issue that I've seen with businesses is that they're not looking at pay of their model out in the field. And Ying from Stanford and Coursera once reported that about 51% of companies, they don't look at how their model is performing. They don't monitor what their model is doing out in the field. But the security industry do this very, very well. And that's one thing I learned to appreciate at McAfee and other security companies have been using AI and machine learning for years and years because they have to have instantaneous determination of whether it's a risk or not to the user. And so I think the most important thing that a business can do is monitor what's happening out in the field and get that information back to the system that created it. And model decay happens, it's when your accuracy is depleting out in the field. You'll want to ensure that there are automatic checks and balances within the development cycle to ensure that that model decay doesn't decay at a fast rate. So they've got to watch their metrics constantly and to know when the signals are there. If you're not looking at it, they also need to look at from a board perspective. One of the things we always look at is the integration of various metrics and how they complement each other. And so it's important to look at all of the metrics and how they interact with one another.
So, with this, I also want to understand about the use cases, utilizing data, analysis of it. Can you share some of the case studies which you have done and which has created a business impact?
Sure. The latest one we did was looking at about 36 homes for energy efficiency. And we created a model that looks at personalized usage of each home. Now, these homes were cookie cutters of one another. They looked exactly the same from one home to the other. So the square footage was the same, but there was different use cases within each home. Some were younger, some were older residents. What we found when we implemented a statistical and machine learning analysis of these homes, that one home in particular had expenditures outside of his normal limits. And this brought back statistical process control for me that it's very individualized. It's very, very focused for the user. And we approached the residents and said, you know, you're going way out of your limits for electricity usage between 2 and 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the highest time of the day for energy costs. And he was an elderly handicapped man. And he said, sadly, I don't care. But we did learn a lesson. We learned that not everybody wants to do what you think you want them to do. But we also created a model that was very personalized and can have their own limits for themselves and to compare that from home to home to home. And they can do that as an opt-in. So I think long term, I think we made an impact, even though we didn't with this particular gentleman. But I think we did a good job in Foundation personalized usage for each energy usage.
That's amazing. Thanks for sharing that.
There's also a number of items that we did using a Stairstep method at McAfee for security for ransomware. So when I say Stairstep method, I always wanted to start with the lowest possible denominator of model. Do your regression analysis and then continue increasing the difficulty to the point where you finally get something like a graph neural network or something like that. But the higher you go in complexity, the potential for issues to arise. I can't share any of those particular use cases, but I can tell you that all of our security that you and I use in the world has been run by machine learning and AI for years.
That's something exciting to know.
It's surprising. A lot of big data, which is much different than, say, personalized data for energy usage for a home, which is small data. Very different approach, but it has to monitor the model in the field, which I think is important in every industry.
That's it. These are all the questions I wanted to ask from you. And thank you so much for sharing your journey, your perspectives, and your insights on innovation, mentorship, and how it is making the real life impact. So thank you so much.
I appreciate it, and thank you very much for having me.